Hi there, this is Brett from GameByte and I'm here to talk to you about E3. More specifically, I'm here to talk to you about Square Enix, who have announced that they'll be doing a conference at the show for the first time in 3 years. Now, normally if you're going to do a conference, you're doing it because you've got a lot to talk about, and Square Enix are a company that do not have a shortage of franchises or games to shout about. And although we could spend hours speculating about whether or not they'll be showing off a new Deus Ex, a new Thief, or a new Parasite Eve, it's better to sort of talk about what we expect will actually be there and break it down for you. So, without further ado, let's talk about Square Enix at E3 and what we definitely think they're going to be showing off. Now, this speculation is mainly done by it being a case of Square Enix have already talked about it, or we know it's games that are meant to be out this year. It's likely that Square Enix are going to want to shout about the games they've got coming out soon at the conference, so it's good to just quickly break down what is probably going to be there just because it's coming out soon. So first up, we have to talk about Shadow of the Tomb Raider, because Shadow of the Tomb Raider is probably Square Enix's biggest release this year. It's the latest in the Tomb Raider reboot franchise, and it's looking really nice from what we've seen. It's out in September, and you'll no doubt see a bit more gameplay, and it will no doubt be playable at the show. And with it being the end of the reboot trilogy, it probably makes sense that Square Enix want to make it as big as possible, considering that it's also the same year that a film of the franchise has been released again. In the world of JRPGs, Square Enix have a bunch of them coming out this year, and Octopath Traveler is one that we at least know is coming out this July, made by the Bravely Default team. It looks really nice and it will be a Switch exclusive, so no doubt we'll see a tiny bit more about it at the conference. It's not the only Switch exclusive JRPG that Square Enix will be releasing this year though, because they'll be bringing out the World Ends With You Final Remix. The World Ends With You Final Remix is a sort of reimagining of The World Ends With You, a very popular game that appeared on the Nintendo DS quite a few years ago now. We heard about it at Nintendo Direct a while back, but no doubt we'll hear a bit more about it at E3. And if we don't hear about it at Square, maybe we'll hear about it at Nintendo. And the big daddy for Japanese RPGs for Square Enix this year is obviously Kingdom Hearts 3, the latest collaboration between Disney and Square Enix. The Kingdom Hearts franchise has a cult following, and we have waited a long time for 3 to happen. Obviously, we've seen other entries in the franchise, but keep in mind Kingdom Hearts 2 came out way back on the PlayStation 2. So we have seen the PlayStation 3 been and gone to get to Kingdom Hearts 3 finally happening. From what we've seen, it looks great, and we know that it's coming out this year. We just don't know a date. So E3 seems the perfect time to finally announce it. Dragon Quest Builders 2 is also coming out, so make sure to keep an eye on that. It will be coming out on the PlayStation 4 and the Switch. It's Square's sort of answer to Minecraft, really, if you ever played the first one. Got favourable reviews, and it was pretty fun if you're into that whole building and collecting thing that Minecraft does so well. And it obviously has the charm of Dragon Quest and Square Enix RPGs. Wrapping up the JRPG section of what's most likely to be there, also expect updates on Final Fantasy XV and Final Fantasy XIV. Final Fantasy XV has said that they're going to keep rolling out that DLC because, you know, if you don't have much of a story in there in the first place, you've got to have these story expansions to actually pad out your world, and the latest entry in the franchise has actually proven to be hugely popular, so they're doing a great job in continuing to build it up and make it a place that you want to keep revisiting. And with Final Fantasy XIV, you know, it's continuing to be one of the best MMOs out there, and no doubt Square Enix want to just make sure that you're aware of it, so you might want to try it out, and you really should. It's a lot of fun, but prepare to lose a lot of hours of your life if you are going to start getting into it, much like any MMO. The last thing that I wouldn't be shocked to see most likely appear at the show would be Left Alive. The shooter was announced at TGS and is part of the Front Mission universe, a long-running franchise for Square that hasn't had much release outside of Japan, but this seems to be something that is catering much more for a Western audience and has a very much Metal Gear Solid vibe, which is not a bad thing in the slightest, because who doesn't love Metal Gear Solid? From what we've heard, the game's meant to be out this year, so no doubt we'll maybe get a bit more on it possibly even a release date. Now, a curious thing happened just before we recorded this, and that was a leak from Walmart Canada with a bunch of listings of games that haven't yet been announced that most likely are gonna come at E3, and one of them was Just Cause 4, so definitely expect to see something on Just Cause 4 at E3, whether it's at the Square Enix conference or if it's at the PlayStation or Xbox conference. The Just Cause franchise continues to be a lot of fun that people just love jumping about and running around in. It's a really fun sandbox game, and hopefully they continue to embrace the silliness that they have done. The Final Fantasy VII Remake also popped up on the Walmart Canada listing, and although we know that that's happening already, maybe it does mean that it could be happening slightly sooner than we thought. Like, we keep hearing that the development's been a bit of a mess, so we're not expecting to see it anytime soon, but it would be great to see it out the tail end of this year in some form. Final Fantasy VII, obviously, probably the biggest of the Final Fantasy games. Whether or not it's deserved, you know, many people argue on message boards and anywhere that it's not. Make sure to let us know in the comments if it's your favourite Final Fantasy, and if not, what is. But one thing that we can't deny is what we've seen of the remake so far looks beautiful, and hopefully it continues to look beautiful and we can see a tiny bit more actual gameplay from it. Now, a curious entry in the listing was also Dragon Quest II. Now, at first when I saw that, I thought, well, they probably just meant Dragon Quest Builders and messed up the listing, but Dragon Quest Builders is meant to only be coming to PS4 and Switch, to my knowledge, not to Xbox One, whereas this listing showed the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. Now, what this means isn't fully sure. Maybe it is a complete remake of Dragon Quest II, which would be pretty awesome and would probably have got quite a big buzz and a big pop from the conference when it happened, but you know, it's hard to really know what's going to happen with that. The fact that it seems to be listed as a full retail release makes me think it could be a bit more than just the Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy IX on PlayStation 4 releases we've seen, where it's just a spruced up version of the original PlayStation sort of graphics. There's also every chance that it was just a misprint and it is just Dragon Quest Builders 2. So now that we've covered the ones that feel almost like a definite that they'll be there in some form, let's move on to the games that we think could be why Square Enix want to do a conference on this. The big games that we know they're working on, but we haven't heard much about. First up, it's hard to really ignore the Avengers Project. We know that Square Enix are working on a game based on the Marvel Avengers universe, and you know, that's exciting enough. We also know that Crystal Dynamics are working on this game. Crystal Dynamics not working on the latest Tomb Raider, so it could mean that they've got a few years of development behind this game, and with the buzz around Marvel and Avengers the highest it's been, which is saying a lot considering it's always been quite high, it could be the perfect time to sort of show off what this game is and what we can be expecting to see. It's been a while since we've seen a really great superhero game, and with the announcement that Spider-Man on PlayStation 4 is obviously coming this year, we could finally be seeing a lovely renaissance of the superhero genre in gaming. I also wouldn't be shocked to see Life is Strange 2. We know the game is coming, and with the comic book series soon to come out, it seems like the perfect time to also announce the new entry, which is being made by the original developers. Don't Nod obviously have just wrapped up development on Vampire, which is looking really nice, and they're probably looking to then show off Life is Strange 2. Whether or not it's going to be Max and Chloe, we can hope that it will be. We'll have to find out, but it really wouldn't shock me if this did turn up at the conference, and hopefully this is one of the big announcements that Square Enix plans to show off. The final game that I think Square Enix could be really signal boosting at the conference is the game that they're doing with People Can Fly. People Can Fly is a development house that has worked on the likes of Gears of War franchise and even Fortnite, and they're best known for bringing out Painkiller and Bulletstorm. They make really fun, addictive games, and we know that Square Enix are making what they're calling a AAA title with People Can Fly. The question is, what will this AAA title be? Will it be part of a franchise that's already existing in the Square Enix universe, or will it be something else? Not much is known, but E3 seems like the right time to announce this, especially considering that the developers are a Western developer, not an Eastern developer, so it would be odd to sort of wait till TGS to show and shout this off. So now that we've gone through what we expect and what seems like almost a definite, let's just do some fun speculation, because it's always good to just have full-on blind speculation of things that we would like to see or think we will see. And one of them for me is that we're going to see another Final Fantasy game get the HD port treatment that we've seen from the likes of Final Fantasy XII and Final Fantasy X and X-2. I really think that we'll see a Final Fantasy XIII collection coming out at some point soon, before the PlayStation 4 stops being a thing. So E3 seems like a good point to announce that we're going to get a Final Fantasy XIII collection in some form, and I would personally love to see Final Fantasy VIII appear on the PlayStation 4 alongside 7 and 9. It can just be that spruced up PC/PlayStation sort of port. I'd be fine with that, but Final Fantasy VIII is personally my favourite Final Fantasy game, and I would love to just get to play it again. I'd also expect to see a tiny bit from the Square Enix Indie Wing Square Enix Collective, most likely Battalion 1944 and the Fear Effect reboot that we know is already in development. If you'd like to find out more about the work of Square Enix Collective, make sure to check out the card at the top of the screen, because we interviewed them a while back, talking about what they do and how they're trying to breathe new life into Square Enix's franchises and series that they've sort of forgotten about, the likes of Gex, Legacy of Kain / Soul Reaver. They're all games that possibly could be given another shot thanks to Square Enix Collective. And speaking of franchises getting another shot, it really wouldn't shock us to see another franchise get a bit of a reboot. It would obviously be lovely to see something like Parasite Eve get another shot, because it always just felt that it was the wrong time for that game on the PlayStation. I think now it would find its home much better with a more modern audience, and Square Enix have so many great games that it just makes sense to try and reboot some of them, and hopefully we get a few nods at the show. And that's our video on Square Enix at E3. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you have, please make sure to hit that like button, that comment button, and turn on the subscriptions with the notification bell as well. If you've got a subject you'd love to see GameByte cover, make sure to let us know and we'll try and do a video on it. But until next time, I've been Brett from GameByte, you've been wonderful, goodbye.